May I have a motion to acknowledge receipt of the CSE, CPSE recommendations approved on the following dates, October 17 and 24. Motion made by Mrs. Goober, seconded by Mr. Panaccio. Discussion? All in favor? Passed unanimously. May I have a motion to acknowledge receipt of the treasurer's trial balance, budget status, revenue status, budget transfer, and cash flow reports. Motion made by Mr. Wunsch, seconded by Mrs. Goober. Discussion? In favor? Passed unanimously. We have a motion to accept, resolve that the Board of Education of the Commack Union Free School District shall hold a regular meeting on January 17 at 6 p.m. at Hub's Administration Center, 480 Playfitz Road in East Northport. It is anticipated that the board will make a motion for the purpose of adjourning into exec session at this time, and at 8 p.m. the board will reconvene in public session for the purpose of holding its regular meeting. Motion made by Mrs. Goober, seconded by Mr. Wunsch. Discussion? In favor? Passed unanimously. At this time, if anyone would like to come to the microphone to discuss any and all other issues, please do.
Good evening and season's greeting to you all. I'm here to slightly touch on a slightly tender subject, especially Mr. Petronio, and that is Mary and Carl. I realize Cynthia Clark.
Thank you.
The matter right now, I understand you are in litigation. There's only so much that can be spoken about. The matter I am here about is the immediate protection of the roof, a la Sandy. I was fortunate that I had a friend fly over shortly after the storm and saw that the tarp was off, which was already shot to pieces. At this point, I wish to ask the board, one, has this been addressed yet with reparation and repairs? Two, when were the repairs done? Three, if they have not been done, when do you intend to? And four, if you again plead that you do not have the monies, we have a group willing to donate them for you, the materials, with licensed, insured contractors and historic, recognized experts to assist. So we can all work together in the spirit of the season. So,
Sounds like a plan.
Mrs. President.
Do you have a question, actually, that we can add? I appreciate all that you've said.
Would you be so kind as to bring me up to the date of the current status of...
I will allow the superintendent to,
Thank you.
since he's on top of that.
So part of the tarp was torn in the storm. The roof has been temporarily patched. We are in the process of obtaining the necessary bids, if you will, to put a more permanent tarp over the roof. That work will be completed as soon as we can get through the legal obligations for obtaining the pricing. We certainly would be happy to meet with you and have a conversation about the donation of those funds.
Absolutely. Seeing it could be done at a very small price when volunteers and red tape.
Okay, but aware of, and I'm sure you're aware that the pace that this is accomplished has a lot of criteria of, and as you said, knowing that it's a
But
historical
this is an
site.
emergency, and I do have a letter, if I'm sure if they have, Mr. Barnowski's office has the information, that as Robert Hughes, the town historian, that emergency repairs do not have to be of an historically correct nature. We are only talking plywood, a few pieces of plywood, a heavy-duty tarp, and some furring strips applied to keep the tarp in place so you can ride out your legal situation.
And this you are saying might be able to be donated.
Yes, as a matter of fact, Harnett Sawmill has offered to donate some materials. I happen to have a friend who owns a lumber yard. We're talking about doing this for under a couple $1,000s.
We're liking this conversation.
Yes.
This is good.
Exactly. There are ways when you can get some altruistic people. The big concern here is this. Farmer's Almanac, we saw what happened with Sandy. We're talking 18 storms after January 1st.
Ooh, you did have to bring that in tonight.
Sorry.
We're all on a happy. Okay.
Sorry. So, okay. If
Some more good
the
news?
board is receptive to working with private, caring individuals to expedite this matter,
We will have the conversation.
Absolutely.
how can we follow up? Because time is of essence here. Dr. James,
Dr. James would welcome your call.
if I call, am I going to get, he's out of the office, he'll be back later. Sure.
Most people, I have a list of many that
Time
never.
is
I will-
ticking
I will
on this,
tell you-
Dr. James. This is critical with this room.
I'm offended by your comment as if I might not call you back. The gentleman in the back, before he called my office, called my house and threatened to come to my house. So you might imagine why I wouldn't return his calls.
You didn't give
As
me
far
the
as
option.
the other
John, there's a few
individuals
other individuals.
that I have called Mr. Hughes. I have called Mr. Hughes. We've been playing phone tag. So as far as we're concerned, if you call my office, there'll be an appointment.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Would you like a copy of the letter from Mr. Hughes so you can avoid that?
We do, we have a copy.
Okay.
We've been in communication.
Thank you.
So when do you plan to engage?
When you make that phone call, we'll begin that process.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Speak to you within 48 hours.
Hi, Teresa.
Teresa Burke of Commack residents. I've got 3 questions, and they have nothing to do with each other, so
One.
bear with me. All right, first one is under legal fees, the $51,000 for last month. Without going into detail, it seems really high. Is there a specific reason that could say why it's so substantially high, or are there numbers of cases?
I think Mr.
So one
Weinstein.
just address on
Yeah.
it.
Well, that was about 7,000 of the 51,000.
There was one impartial hearing that was.
If he doesn't call me back, I'm going to the meeting.
So it's because of one incident that.
Peter, if I might.
Yeah, I think that would be handed over to our counsel. Thank you.
There were really, it was high, the reason that there were 3 separate hearings, and hearings are cost-intensive propositions. One was an impartial hearing, there were 2 labor arbitrations, all occurred in November. That's why it's a little bit higher.
Okay, because, just in time, let me just bring that up. The second thing is this new Infinite Campus that we're dealing with from the old portal. My concern, there's no way of checking absences on there for the high schoolers. And the reason why is last year when my son would be on a field trip, and I get those phone calls saying that he's missed a couple of periods, and it's because they didn't get the whatever list in time. I'm getting them now again, and it's not, I used to be able to go on the portal and say, oh, it's been corrected. Now I have to keep calling to make sure it was corrected, and I have no way of tracking it.
Is that?
So I don't know if anybody's familiar with it. Maybe I'm missing something, even have my son look it up. There's no way of getting the attendance on there anymore. And it's a big deal when you're trying, you get these phone calls, and I'm playing telephone tag, going back and forth, was it corrected, wasn't it corrected? If there's somebody that could address that or even look into it.
One of the things that we've been doing as we've been rolling out Infinite Campus, we've been very prudent with regards to how much the information that we're putting out there because of the transition from one system to another. We've had conversations about opening the attendance venue of the portal. So the person that's our CIO, that has basically been the project manager of Infinite Campus, Mr. Dominic Levi, is very well aware of that's coming. It's we'd like to do it comprehensively K through 12, so that but with doing something that comprehensively, we may just have to roll it out at the secondaries first and then go back and do.
So it's available, Teresa.
Oh, so it's something that you can bring in a program that doesn't have the capability, has the capability, but hasn't been put out yet.
It has the capability, and we will be rolling it out.
Okay, and understanding that, possibly, for the next couple of field trips, the attendance department can kind of get a list. When my son went to New York City on a field trip that's on the calendar, I get a phone call, a text, I'm calling back and forth, and at this point, I don't know if they've been corrected or not, because I have no way of checking. And I'm not gonna make another phone call, it's just not working.
I will make sure Mr. Taylor.
Okay, I appreciate that.
That he's aware of that.
If you don't, Infinite Campus, I'm very familiar with, and I was one of the proponents when we brought it here. You're not seeing its capabilities yet. It's now still in the transition. There's a live grade book connected to this. What is going to be available to parents in the future is 5-fold better than what we had in the past. So I'm asking you to be patient. Obviously, there's some bumps in the road as we move forward, but the parents are going to love it. We're going to be able to see and do on-time data as well as grades and attendance.
Great, no, I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure the capability was there.
We would not have changed if it was.
Okay, and then the last thing, of course, now since you voted on it, really doesn't matter, but I just was curious. Had you thought about, instead of getting rid of a whole week, spreading it over to 2 days or 2 days for the vacation, so that it wasn't such a hard impact for those people that might have already needed those days?
We certainly did consider that option. And for several reasons that didn't occur. One is the impact on religious holidays, and the other was the ability to provide a consistent instructional program as opposed to piecemealing it. What we recognize is that you have different kids out creating different gaps in their programs, and the number of kids potentially could grow because you're spreading it out over time. So if you spread it over 2 or 3 vacations, you risk this 100 kids, that 100 kids, and another 100 kids not coming to school, as opposed to this is the one group of kids who isn't going to come to school.
I just thought maybe if they were going to miss it, instead of missing, let's for example, those that have already not coming in February, instead of all those children missing 5 complete days, which is a substantial amount, they would only really miss 2 days maybe. Or, you know what I'm saying? That was the only reason I brought
I
it
just
up.
want to remind, and you bring it up to us to state, our whole mission here is, once the commissioner said we had to do this, we, as the board and all the educators in the system, recognize the need to do it in a pure sense of an educational experience. Therefore, not to kind of pick it here and add it there. It isn't a matter of filling the calendar with days. That's not what it is. And if we want to make sure that's understood, it's an effort to make sure those educational moments in the classroom take place, and they take place with professionals in the room and with the commitment to education that we all have here. So you can't then go dabble here, dessert there. You just make the effort and you get it.
Just as a note as that, as you said, it does impact more than just the children. So it's going to impact the faculty too. So for my child, not that we have a problem with the week, let me start there, but for my child to attend 5 days of school to find out their teacher isn't there, you know, I don't know if it's going to happen, but let's be real about, realistic.
That's why
it could happen regardless whether we're
Teresa,
talking about
that's why
children.
every message we
That's
send
why.
out is that we believe that that should not happen. That's all we
Okay,
do.
that's all we can hope for.
That's what we stand for, that's all we can do.
All right, thank you.
Wait, if I can, I think we're going to be making a concerted effort to parents and faculty and staff, non-teaching staff, that it is a full, regular work week, school week. There is no reason not to be here. The emphasis should be on the education of your students and your job.
Okay, thank you.
Better be Vito. Get up there.
Hi, Mr. Russo. Let me first start saying that I love the Borough Mini Marathon, but with bullying so high, why would we post everybody's score online? All their scores that they ran are all posted online. Why would you put, like, you came on 306,
I'm sorry, where is it
Borough
posted?
Mini Marathon?
No, but
Right on your
right.
line, it says right on Borough Mini
And you
Marathon.
So if you go to Borough there, it's on. I mean, I think, I
I understand the top 10, you can see the top 10 first, but then you go,
well, it's kind of, that's what they do with the, no?
Is it on the main link or is it on the Borough?
It's on Borough, then you click over to there.
No, it's on the Borough.
Yeah, but then you click over to whatever company you raised, you hired.
Yeah,
I see they come on 306, but I can't get 306.
They were trying to do like the
It's
New York
right,
Marathon.
that's how it is.
They did the first 10? Okay.
Well, you
Yeah,
want
they
to
did
know
everything.
though, let's hope that all that's being done with the presentation up here, that we don't have to turn everything into bullying and that we don't
I
have
know,
to
but-
translate that. So let's hope.
That's an easy one, that's on here.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Just being sensitive.
I want to thank Cynthia, she spoke at my show. Anyway, I guess my concern was, is anyone looking at the Marion Hall Farmhouse? I mean, it's a very historic property and a home. It's on the National Register of Historic Homes. And does anyone after the storm look to see who's in good shape?
Vito, are you kidding me? Of course we do. That is part of our property. It's
Okay.
under our umbrella. We have
When did we
watched
repair,
it.
when did we put the new top up?
We just explained to Ms. Clark that we have to put a bid out for that, but now she indicated that you or she or whoever that might be have funds available and through generous generous donations of altruistic community members. So we
That's
started,
not the
no,
answer
no,
to my
no, it
question.
is, it is. You asked,
No.
when did we put it on? We can't just go put it on, we have to get a bid for it.
Okay, the point I'm making is that since the storm Sandy, we had a snowstorm.
Correct.
Was that top on at the time of,
No, the tarp was torn, it just applied to it.
okay, well, when was that put
I
on?
don't know right off the top of my head, but it was patched. The tarp was gonna be.
And the tarp will be replaced.
As our buildings in
Okay,
ground.
you understand the point I'm getting
I
at?
get it.
They take responsibility for Marion Crowe Farm and all of
Preservation
our
of the house.
properties, all of them,
Uh,
all of them.
The question I have is, if we had any damage to the inside of the house, would we consider part of the plan for FEMA?
There is a meeting with FEMA, I think it's next week, and that is on the list, and FEMA will take the claim. We are making the claim.
Okay, those are the two questions. The other one was, like LIPA, for some reason, they think that that storm that we just had, Sandy, it can't get any worse. They said the same thing about Irene. They said the same thing about Gloria and the Halloween one. Apparently we're getting more and more storms that are really destructive. Who is looking out to see if there's any other damage on the other buildings, the Marion Crowe Farm?
We have a wonderful, maintenance and custodial staff, and
Oh, then we have someone responsible.
Mr. Schramm is responsible for every property
He's a property that we.
in this district that's included. So it does not get passed over. It gets reviewed and looked at, and everything
So,
there is
He's
checked.
the one that started repairing the roof.
He or his, I don't know, for Richie Extra.
Okay, well, you understand what I'm getting at. It should have been the second day. that people should
Well,
know
we
that
actually
was
have buildings that students are in that we had to absolutely make our priority since they're educational, you know, you can say no. Well, then it could have been the second day. The second day. No,
Volunteer, I'm willing to volunteer to see if there's any further damage.
we didn't need any.
I'm gonna try to make it a little clear. It wasn't the second day, we inspected all of our properties. I personally went out with Mr. Schramm and inspected all of our properties immediately. In fact, we could barely get around all the trees. We identified
In the school district.
every property, including the Marion Crowe property.
Including the Marion Crowe Farm?
Yes, including the Marion Crowe property and all of our other rentals. We have other facilities. We make some determinations about what are the issues at hand with each one of those properties. And we begin to prioritize what needs to be done and what can be done. Of course, without power and without staff being able to get to work, it wasn't the second day before we put plywood on. I can tell you that right now. We didn't even have people who could get here. So as soon as we identified it and as soon as we could get somebody in there, it was repaired. Was it first? It wasn't. The buildings where we house children were first. And then the other buildings that are rentals where we also house children came next. And then we got to that property. I'm not going to tell you that it was first on our list. I'll tell you, we did identify it as an area of concern. Now, we are putting on a more permanent tarp. I don't for 1 second think that the storms that we've had are the worst